All right, let's talk about generative AI. It is so much more than just a buzzword these days, especially when it comes to workplace learning. We're going to see how it's not just tweaking old training programs, but actually giving us the power to rebuild them from the ground up, creating a workforce that's truly ready for whatever comes next.
So let me ask you something. Does your company's training ever feel a little stuck? Like it was designed for a totally different time? If you feel like the way you're learning at work just isn't cutting it anymore, trust me, you are not alone.
I mean, we all know the classic problems, right? You've got training content that's hopelessly out of date. The quality of your training can be a total coin toss depending on which manager you get. Everything relies on these in-person sessions that are a nightmare to schedule and scale. And on top of all that, there's zero personalization, which means HR teams are just drowning in the same basic questions day in and day out.
Okay, so we've talked about these challenges, but they can feel a little abstract, so let's make them real. We're going to look at how these problems play out through the eyes of three people you almost certainly have in your own organization. Let's meet them. First up, this is Joyce. She's a training lead, and her whole world revolves around content. She's struggling with onboarding materials that are old, totally unengaging, and honestly, a massive pain to update. She's desperate for something modern, flexible, and fast. Next, say hello to Cheryl, an HR manager. You can just picture her desk, right? It is buried under a constant flood of these same repetitive questions about company policies. She's stuck in the weeds, and it keeps her from focusing on the big picture stuff, like actually developing talent. And finally, there's Kelvin. He's an operations supervisor, and his big headache is inconsistency. The on-the-job training his team gets is all over the place. It completely depends on which supervisor is running it. There's no standard and no real personalization. Okay, so there you have it. Joyce, Cheryl, and Kelvin. Three real people with three very frustrating, very common problems. Now, let's see what happens when we introduce generative AI, not as some vague futuristic concept, but as a specific tool built to solve each of their challenges. Let's circle back to Joyce, our training lead. Remember her struggle with that outdated static content? Well, for her, the solution is AI-powered content creation. Imagine being able to turn what used to be a weeks-long process into just a few hours, generating fresh, relevant material whenever you need it. And the way this works is surprisingly simple. First, you just define what you want people to learn. Then, you let the AI work its magic, suggesting better course designs or even creating bite-sized videos. And finally, it can whip up quick assessments to make sure people actually absorbed the information. So what's the bottom line for Joyce and her team? The result is training content that is accessible anytime, anywhere. It's actually engaging for new hires. And it's completely scalable across the entire company. It's a total game changer. Now, let's talk about Cheryl, our overwhelmed HR manager. Her solution is an AI-powered knowledge hub. Seriously, think of it as a brilliant, always-on assistant for the entire company. A smart chatbot that becomes the first stop for every single HR question. So, at its core, the system just automates all those routine questions, creating this one central place for self-help. But here's where it gets really clever. It can personalize the answers based on an employee's specific role or how long they've been with the company, so the info is always relevant. And the outcome here is huge. Yeah, of course it's about making things more efficient. But more than that, it's about empowerment. Employees get accurate answers instantly, and Cheryl's team is finally free to focus on the strategic work that really matters. Okay, time to solve Calvin's consistency problem. For him, the answer is an AI tool that generates on-the-job training blueprints. This thing is designed to take all the guesswork out of training and make sure everyone is held to the same high standard. So how does it do it? First, the AI does a really deep analysis of a specific job role. From that, it creates a standardized, top-quality training plan to make sure everyone's on the same page. But then, and this is the crucial part, it customizes that plan for each person based on their experience and how they learn best. So the end result is exactly what Kelvin was missing, training that is finally consistent across the board, deeply personalized for the individual, and just way more effective. Every employee gets the best possible training no matter who their supervisor is. So we've seen three really powerful tools, solving three very different problems. But what happens when you put them all together? Well, you get something much bigger than just a few efficiency gains. You get the foundation for a massive strategic leap, moving from just improving training to fundamentally transforming your workforce. This brings us to a huge idea called job redesign. All it really means is the process of rethinking what jobs look like so they actually align with big shifts like new technology and automation. It's not about getting rid of jobs, it's about evolving them for what's next. Now, to make this idea really practical, organizations can use a simple 4-step framework called DEEP. First, you diagnose the problem. Then, you examine the current jobs to find the gaps. After that, you enable the change with new job descriptions and training. And finally, you roll it out with a smart, phased implementation. And this new way of thinking leads to one of the most important changes in HR right now. It's this big shift away from traditional job descriptions, the ones obsessed with degrees and years of experience, and toward a skills-based model. It asks a much better question. What does a person actually need to be able to do to succeed here? And why is this so critical? Well, because when you focus on skills, your hiring gets way more accurate and a lot less biased. It helps you build clear career paths for your people, and it lets you connect training directly to the skills your company actually needs to win.
So we've really covered a lot of ground here, haven't we? We started with the day-to-day frustrations of people just trying to do their jobs, looked at the specific AI tools that can help, and went all the way up to a strategic framework for redesigning the very nature of work itself. Now, let's bring it all home. Here's the single most important takeaway. Generative AI isn't just another piece of software. It's a catalyst. It's the technology that finally gives us the power to stop putting band-aids on old, broken systems and start building a workforce that is genuinely ready for the future. Which leaves us with one final, crucial question. AI isn't some far-off concept anymore. It's here, and it's already reshaping jobs and expectations. So the real question isn't if this is going to impact your work, but simply this: is your organization ready for it?